Hi, today we're going to talk about addiction, which comes in so many forms. And we have Gurvinder Singh with us, and I'll call him Gubs throughout the interview. He's a BACP registered counselor. Hi, Gubs, how are you?
Hi there, how are you, Bruin? You okay?
Thank you. Could you tell me what might lead to addiction?
Okay, there's many aspects that could lead to addiction. It could be from environment, it could be from trauma, it could be from relationship breakups. Addiction starts usually when we struggle to sort of self-regulate feelings and emotions. So whenever we're experiencing anything negative in our lives, what we're doing is we're counterbalancing that with something that picks us up for a while. But that's where the addiction starts. So say if you've gone through childhood trauma, or you've grown up in a very sort of hostile environment with family, and or you've noticed a lot of violence, or you've noticed a lot of trauma and stress in your life from a childhood, that's where addiction sort of stems and creates a sort of a blockage where we are using substances and we're using alcohol to sort of make ourselves feel better. Addiction isn't just drugs and alcohol, it's food as well. So what happens is with any kind of addiction, we sort of take something to make us feel good when we're feeling quite down, and then afterwards we feel guilty, and then we say to ourselves, I'm not going to do this the next day, but we seem to fall same back into that sort of step. So addiction stems from there's so many things I could talk about, being around peers as well. So you could be around negative peers, which can lead to addiction. You could be involved in a negative relationship, which could lead to addiction, or in a controlling relationship as well. So there's not one sort of aspect that leads to addiction. It's many sort of different sort of pieces in your life that could lead to addiction.
Mm, that's good. And it could affect so many areas of your life as well.
Yeah, I always say, when you can sort of identify addiction, if it's affecting your physical and mental health, if it's affecting your financial health, if it's affecting your relationships, if it's affecting your work, that's when you've got to sort of look at if it's alcohol, food, substances. If it's affecting of any of those parts of your life, you actually have to have a look and think, well, actually, has it become a problem?
Mm-hmm. And do you have certain the type of drugs or that could lead to addiction?
I think when you with young people, it usually starts with cannabis. Cannabis is probably the gateway drug. So it could be smoking a bit of cannabis around friends, just having a bit of weed, and then from there on, you sort of want to try something a little bit stronger. And it could be cocaine, it could be amphetamines, and then you also get addiction further on in life. It could be medication as well. Medication is quite addictive as well, and they have quite a lot of withdrawal. Antidepressants, painkillers, codeine, they're all addictive substances. So cannabis would probably be the one that usually starts, and alcohol's accepted in our society as well. So if you're looking at deaths across all substances in the country the last couple of years, you'd say there's 2,500 people died from all substances like cocaine, heroin, crack, every kind of substance you think of. If you look at alcohol, you're looking at 400% more, over 8,500 people died. But alcohol is socially acceptable.
Mm.
So alcohol's probably one of the biggest addictions, and it's probably the most dangerous addiction. So there's only two substances that are physically addictive, which you will have withdrawals from. That's alcohol and heroin. So those two substances are physical addiction. If you look at cocaine, you look at cannabis and other substances, they're psychological addictions. So it's a psychological barrier. And counselling is probably one of the things, in treatment to try and work through those substances and try and get support is probably the way forward.
Mm. And what are the signs?
Signs are quite simple. If you're a family member, or if you're sort of going through it yourself, it's with anything. There's 7 days in a week. Now, if I'm drinking 4 days a week and having 3 days off, I'm doing it more times than I'm off it. So that's always a good indicator. If you're drinking more days than you're actually having off it, that's when the problem, because you're not in control. But if you switch it back over and say, right, I'm not going to drink for 4 days, I'm only going to drink for 3 days, you're sort of bringing the control back. That's one of the signs. Physical neglect, isolation's a massive sign. Financial issues, massive sign. Depression and mental health is a massive sign. Also, some addictions people keep them quite secret. So noticing, the usual bottles of alcohol, or noticing empty bowls, or finding things in certain places. If you're a partner, or you're looking after your children, that's always a good sign as well. And also change of behavior. Change of behavior is probably the biggest sign, when someone is actually less engaging and seems quite withdrawn as well. I would say those are the biggest signs to recognize addiction.
And what would you say a client could do to help themselves, or where could they find support? You've already mentioned counseling as well. Yeah.
I think the first step would always be to actually accept that you've got a problem. Acceptance is always one of the biggest things. The moment you accept and you say, actually, I've got a problem, you're going to do something about it. And then the steps forward would be, firstly, to talk to family members and people who are close to you to access that support, because with an addiction, it's difficult just to deal with it on your own. So I'd always say, get support from family members. It could be partners, parents, it could be friends, it could be a school teacher, it could be a work colleague. Get the support, talk to someone. Once you talk to someone, you're opening the door up then to access support externally from counselling. There's county drug and alcohol teams. There's so many other services you can actually talk to people and actually access that support. So it's about, the first step is actually accepting, and then talking to your family members and people close to you and accessing that support, and then going on to treatment and counselling.
Sure. Thank you so much, Gabs. That was so helpful. I do appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.